Okay, let me be brief. This is nuts, and I'm no lawyer, but I have two really great lawyers to help me make sense of this. But before that, I want to bring you up to date on this crazy story. A New York State worker fired for fudging his timesheets. I don't think he even denied that part. Here's what got his knickers in a knot. Investigators using GPS to track his apparently very slippery moves. Remy Spencer says, you know, this guy has a case. Anahita Sedaghatfar disagrees. All right, Remy, you say he just might have a case here, and a case actually that could be thrown out as a result. Explain.
That's correct. You know, Neil, the Supreme Court in New York is called the Court of Appeals. It's the highest court of the land. They've already said in 2009 that police need to go to a judge and have probable cause in a criminal case before they can place this kind of tracking device on someone's property. In this case, we're talking about a civil case. We're talking about an employee who may or may not have been lying about when he was working and when he wasn't working. Nobody got a warrant. Nobody had probable cause. There's no criminal accusation here. I do believe that the Court of Appeals in New York will strike this down.
You know, Anahita, I'm thinking it had gone the other way, and the GPS had proven that he had not done this. Would he be suing for damages? But that's a separate issue. What do you make of that?
Well, I mean, I think your other guest just made a great point. This isn't a criminal case, but let's just step back for a second and understand what this guy is doing. So he's defrauding New York taxpayers. He's basically stealing money, and now he's trying to sue, claiming his rights were violated. I mean, the state didn't even need a warrant here because this was not a criminal case. He's not being charged with a crime. So you think the distinction here, but wait a minute, you think the distinction here is that the taxpayers are footing his hiney here, right? Paying for his job. Well, yeah. He's stealing from the taxpayers.
I disagree.
I mean, I think that's not the only distinction, Neil. Okay. However, I think that what it is that this isn't a criminal case. You know, public employers can search their employees without a warrant. There's a limited warrant exception, and all they need is reasonable suspicion. They don't need probable cause, which is a much, much higher standard.
No, I think, and this is an important distinction. First of all, most states don't have this kind of exception to the warrant requirement in the workplace like New York does. That's number one. But number two, the law says that that search without a warrant in the workplace needs to be reasonable in inception and then reasonable in scope. And the New York Civil Liberties Union has argued very effectively there's nothing reasonable in scope about the government putting a tracking device on someone's personal car. We're not talking about workplace property. And then tracking this gentleman and his family for 30 days, even during a week-long vacation out of state. It's that kind of intrusion by the government that our First and our Fourth Amendments prevent.
But if you're pulled over, let's say, for a ticket on the road, right? And Anahita, maybe you can help me with this. And they discover you have pot in your car, right? Or in my case, like 24 Kronitz. Then is that fair ground to say, look, we discovered this while we were in the course of doing this, and we discovered that in the course of GPSing you, that you were fudging your timesheets. You have unearthed or uncovered, well, not a crime, certainly an offense to taxpayers.
Right, and I think, I respect that your other guest makes a distinction here, but there's no precedent for what she's saying.
You know that she always respects what you're saying, and she doesn't think that. Go ahead.
I do. I just don't agree. You know, I get this was his private car. Right. I get that. But he was using his private car, saying, I'm going to meetings for work. I'm going to offsite inspections.
Why do we have to get in legal hoops about it?
That's exactly right, Neil.
You
that's
don't
the point.
need it. There's no precedent
the point
for
is
that. There's absolutely no precedent.
He fudged his numbers.
That's right.
So you're criticizing the means by which they found out how he fudged his numbers and screwed taxpayers.
There are other ways to prove that he stole this money.
Well, they didn't. This is the way they used it, and they uncovered and unearthed this, and it was a clear crime to taxpayers who were footing the bill for his.
I think it's more dangerous to society and taxpayers to have criminals afoot, and that's why our criminal laws are really the most and
this
best
guy's
guidelines.
Abusing the system. He's a criminal in my book.
Okay, and that's fair, but the point is,
I agree with that.
Laws already say even criminal cases you need to go to a judge, and no judge would say that there's probable cause.
Your life and liberty is at risk in a criminal case, though. Your life and liberty. That's why you need probable cause. And Neil, they tried to get a PI.
All right.
Neil, they tried to get a PI to tail this guy, and what did he do? He dodged him. So they tried.
So then they fire him. They fire them. They don't have the right.
Okay.
But they don't have the right to track him 24 hours a day.
You are so my next lawyer, because I'm going to get off on whatever is being charged. He stole the donuts from the $5 place. All right. Meanwhile, it is one thing when an